There is nothing that really pops out. I probably had like an average childhood that many of us would typically grow up with. I grew up in Delhi, and I have very fond memories of that city. Um, you know, given that that is where I kind of did my schooling, my college, and all the other naughtankies that you would typically expect teenagers to do. Delhi is probably the right place to do that.
Maybe time
And
for you to share some secrets.
I don't have any secrets per se, but yeah, we used to, when I was in college, we used to go to North Campus in Delhi, and that was like the bus stop used to be our hub. We would be more in the bus stop than in the classrooms. Uh, and then we have all these very popular colleges in and around, so we'll be mostly hanging around outside their campuses as opposed to our own classrooms. Um, but that was fun. It was fun because those days we were very carefree. We didn't really care about where the world was going. And I always remember the song that came in Kayamat se Kayamat tak. Papa कहते हैं बड़ा नाम करेगा बेटा हमारा ऐसा काम करेगा. It was like so typical of all of us. Dad used to have a lot of dreams about my son will do this and he will accomplish this, and we were like absolutely carefree, not worried about a thing, just living the life one day at a time.
I'm sure he's proud of you. There's no doubt in my mind. So
Yeah, I'm sure too. I do miss him. But of course, I'm glad that uh, after I became something in my life, I did have the opportunity to share a lot of those moments with him. So yeah, to that I'm really grateful to God Almighty.
thank you so much, Suresh, for sharing those nuggets with us.
First and foremost, my view is that we cannot compare. The reason being that when we were growing up, we had very limited means. Literally, like, there would be probably one television around the neighborhood where people would huddle. And I remember those days we used to have these programs called Chitrahar, where we used to get these, Hindi songs once a week. But today, this current generation, I would say they're blessed with so much more, order of magnitude more than what we had when we grew up. And I know it is, as parents, many times we do draw the comparison saying, oh, when I was a kid, I never had this and blah, blah, whatever. But I think the comparison itself is very unfair. Today's generation is probably blessed with, a lot more, right? If you take information, for example, access to information, more importantly. And, when I compare myself to my son, who's currently in grade 5, I would probably say that whatever he knows at this age, maybe I knew it only when I came to college. But having said that, I also feel somewhere that kids of this generation probably do not have the appreciation because everything comes easy for them.
I know.
They just take things for granted. And to them, it is like, oh, if I want it, I'm sure my dad or my mom is going to just buy it for me. Um, whereas I remember when we were growing up, to get something, to get my dad to buy me something, I had to take care of a laundry list of things to, to his satisfaction before he would say, okay, fine, I'm not happy with you. Okay, fine, I'll buy you that thing. Whereas today it is like, oh, dad, buy me this, or dad, buy me that, or order it from Amazon. We don't even need to go to the shop. So that's the difference. It's a very different age that we are living in. But having said that, I would say that kids this day and age are far more knowledgeable than we were at their age back then.
Given today's context where people want to switch jobs, and for some people that is a measure of success, what made you stick in Goldman Sachs for that long?
See, from my perspective, getting into Goldman Sachs itself was like a big thing back in those days when it was 99 when I got into Goldman Sachs. And the number of naysayers I had when they heard that I was, I had applied and, I'm doing my interviews. The number of naysayers was like significant. They said, oh, it is not easy to get in there into that place. That place is like, a sweatshop. People don't survive. But yet, I got lucky that I did, get selected after a long, grueling rounds of interviews. The second thing was you are thrown new challenges every day. And interestingly, it also had a very meritocratic culture, right? And what I mean by that is, if you're really good, you cannot hide in a company like Goldman, right? So I think those were, to me, I never had an opportunity to slack off or feel stagnant, or for that matter, um, you know, ever thought about saying, oh, you know what, I think my career is coming to an end here and maybe I should look at other options. Because something always came my way that always, put me into a position of discomfort, took me out of my comfort zone, pushed me more to look at other opportunities within the firm. So that kept me going. And I never had any specific driver, if I were to say, um, you know, where I really needed to go out and look for another job, because I was getting everything that I needed from my career in Goldman. At a time when I felt that I wanted to spend some time with my family as parents were growing old. It just magically happened that Goldman, my boss called me one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to move to Bangalore, because we are starting a setup there, and for someone like you who's been around for a while, it'd be good for you to go and help us set up, grow the Bangalore office." And it just came automatically. I didn't even have to go and ask for a transfer. It just fell on my lap. Spent significant amount of time growing the Bangalore office. It was a huge amount of a learning experience, because you had fantastic people around you from whom you could learn every single day. So net, I never had a reason per se to look elsewhere. And 20 years just flew by.
Awesome.
So I would say, whether you are in a corporate, whether you're pursuing career, or anything else, um, there are three things that has helped me, right? And I can share that with you, Amit. Number one is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to allow yourself to make mistakes, right? Because if you get too fixated about getting things right, you're most obviously going to get it wrong, right? So sometimes it is very, very important that you allow yourself to make mistakes and go with the flow and fine tune as you move along, right? Because if you want to get something perfect, you're going to always remain on the drawing board. All right.
True. True.
So that'll be my first advice to people, would be to not be afraid to make mistakes, right? The second thing would be, fiercely learn from your mistakes. Because when you make a mistake, you know, the reason it is a mistake, because obviously there is a different way of doing it. And if you continue to repeat it again, over and over again, you're not learning from that process. So the process of learning is, in my mind, a continuous process. You have to learn every day. And by my definition of learning is not getting more degrees or enrolling in the university, or any of those things. The universe teaches you things on a daily basis. Like today, for example, the kind of situation that we are in, did any of us even imagine, a few months ago, that we're going to hear something called a lockdown? We won't be able to, get out of our houses,
Very
and
relevant.
right. But we have evolved and we learn every single day, right? And there are different learnings that each one of us have, because circumstances teaches you different things. So My second advice to people would be to learn, keep that, doors and windows of your minds open, because let the light come in, and there's always something that you learn on a daily basis. And it doesn't really matter who you learn from. You have to learn. Sometimes your kids can teach you some amazing things that you have never thought of, right?
So well said.
And the third thing is always make time for your passion. We all have, you know, some things that we are born with that we are passionate about. Some of us are very passionate about music, some of us are passionate about art, some of us are passionate about technology, career, right? You have to make room for your passion, because if you do not make room for your passion, there will be a point of time in your life when you feel you have achieved a lot of things. You think you're successful, but when you turn back, you will see a long list of regrets that I wish I had done these things, because now I'm at a point where I can't get to it.
Piece of advice. And Suresh, one thing which I completely allude to is the fact that we can learn from anybody. I mean, sometimes I look at the security guards in a building or the people who come for helping us out during this crisis. For me, I'm learning commitment from them. If they can come to serve us in this crisis, I mean, there's no better example of commitment than this. So,
Many of us, you know, who think of ourselves as, accomplishers, and accomplishers in a white collar manner. Today, the world has taught us that the people who are making us survive, people who are making us live, are those people who we always thought of as second grade, third grade citizens, to be honest with you. Um, you're at a point in time where your job title, your degree, your bank balance means nothing,
absolutely.
right? So
Well said.
humility, humble, being humble, respecting another human being, because any job is a job. Someone who is, even for that matter, someone who gets down in dirty drains and cleans it, does it taking a risk, but that keeps us safe. That doesn't make that person anything any lower. In fact, in my mind, those people need to be given a lot of accolades, because our very survival is dependent on them. So there was a point in time in my career where I felt that I really need to pursue my passion on the creative field, and I started, creating stories from our Indian literature, because India as a country has such depth in literature, so many languages, so many writers have written some amazing stuff, and although we feel that we are one country, we are united, um, as a nation, but there are still language barriers, especially when it comes to literature. So I made a very humble attempt to bring the best of literature, Indian literature, to common people. I started a YouTube channel called Indian Literary Classics, where what I would do is I would read some of these great classics, and narrate a synopsis of that in a very simple manner, so that people do understand that, hey, there was this such and such writer has written such beautiful works, in a particular vernacular, and it's important for people to know, right? So that passion kind of led me to my very good friend Giri, who's one of the leading quiz masters of the country, and then he runs this company called Grey Caps, which has been into knowledge services and quizzing. So when we kind of met, he was like, hey, have you ever thought of taking your stories to school? Because we feel that the school children, in the current generation, their knowledge of India is kind of very limited. um, Most of their affiliation is still towards foreign channels, foreign characters, um, unless you have an elderly person, a grandma or a grandpa at home, who shares some of the mythological stories. But there is so much more to India than just what we have heard growing up in Ramayana and Mahabharata and all those. Although I'm surprised that my kids are very attracted to those serials when they are playing right now, which is a good thing. But still, if I were to look at the knowledge of India that this generation has is very, very limited. So I felt it's an opportunity for me to kind of, bring my passion into maybe schools, working with, Giri's team and see what we can do in the field of education. So that is how my foray into Grey Cap started.
Right. So, Suresh, I think for me, the takeaway is that you don't need to be in a conventional career path. You can do a lot of things in your career and you can solve problems and you can do technical stuff. And then there's a time where you can use a lot of your creativity into a job and nothing stops you from experimenting and doing different things. And I think your example kind of truly embodies, that thought.
Especially in this generation, Amit, the choices are so much, the opportunities are so much that you really don't need to go into a conventional path uh, to define success. Right? In my mind, there is so much of opportunities around you, um, because the world is evolving. The world is evolving by the day, and anything that you feel passionate about, I'm sure there is some opportunity out there that not only allows you to enjoy and continue to build your passion, but at the same time get you into some commercials as well, right? So there
Absolutely.
is it's a win-win. It's a win-win at the end of the day. um, it's always glass half full, and there's an opportunity to fill up the rest of the half, if you put your head together, right? I am an eternal optimist, right? And I also don't like to give up. I've had a lot of challenging situations in my life, growing up in my career, with so many different things. And one thing that life has taught me is that if you're willing to take, you know, the bull by the horns, there is always an ecosystem around you that will support you, right? You never fight those battles alone. It is about looking around you and finding out, how do you continue to evolve? How do you to continue to move forward? Because if you are silently suffering, the only person who's impacted by that is you. The world moves along.
Very nicely put. The fact that although the glass is half full, there's an opportunity to fill the other half. So there's an opportunity piece which you're talking about. And also the
Correct.
fact that as long as you're open to seeking help, there are people who are willing to help you. So it's a simple act of seeking help.
Yes. And at the end of the day, to me, you know, uh, everything in your life happens by choice. I firmly, firmly believe it. I mean, even in extreme cases, if somebody were to put a gun on my head and make me do something, that doing something is also a choice. It's not because somebody put a head, gun on my head. If I really didn't want to do, I would have said, no, I don't want to do and taken a bullet. But if I wanted to do, it was a choice that I made that choice. Nobody forced me to do it. And life is like that, right? Every day you have the opportunities that come your way. The choice is yours as to how you want to, take it and move on. Like happiness, for example. Happiness is not something that comes to you because you're waiting for a milestone to happen. Happiness is a choice. You can be the happiest person in the world and not have anything, and you can have everything and be the most unhappy person in the world. So everything about life is a choice. It is out there. It is for us to be able to see it, to be able to kind of grab that opportunity and kind of, move on. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes, it just happens, but you can never give up trying.
Very inspirational. Thanks.
I share a similar passion, right? I mean, to me, Riviera is home. No matter where I am on this planet, Purva Rivera is my home. Okay, so that is something that is etched in my soul, for that matter. Uh, I've been here since 2007, and I have not come across such a vibrant community, right? Who yes, we have our ups and downs, we have our challenges. Um, that's always the case. But when it matters, Riverans come together. They stand together, and they're very very helpful. And to me, like I said, um, Purva Rivera is my home, right? The other thing that makes me really really good being a Riveran is the amount of talent that is out there in this community, right? And I've been kind of in my own small way, I've influenced um, this community to come out and display their talents, and been part of it. I've learned a lot in that process.
Thank you
But
so
one thing
much
that,
for giving me a chance to act. And it was pretty scary at the beginning, but thanks to your magic and our director's magic, I could finally act. And I think I would always be indebted to both of you for that.
hey, you added an India, that's why you were able to do it, right?
Yes.
And that's the beauty of this place, right? I mean, look, it was, I didn't want to get into specifics of language diversity and all that. But you see how this community comes together. It doesn't really matter whether we are doing Pongal, whether we are doing Saraswati Puja, whether we are celebrating Independence Day, or whether we do Dandiya, whether we do Christmas. It really doesn't matter. We just come together as a unit, and we just have fun. And in that process, the talent just shows. Even now, what we are trying to do with this whole virtual cultural
Cultural.
show that we are doing, it's pretty awesome. The fact that some people came together and say, hey, so what if we can't get out of our houses, we'll bring the talent in front of everybody, we'll do Zoom meetings. And that is very very creative thinking.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was not that people also said, yeah, it's one more thing. Everybody jumped in. The list has grown so long that it is going to take us 3 to 4 weeks to go through that full list of people who want to demonstrate their talent in front of the community. And that to me is a pretty powerful thing that Riviera brings, and that's something that all of us as Riverans should feel really really proud of. Thank you for spending the time and having me on your channel. I really enjoyed it, and hope to do something similar more.